Hello, ma'am. Hello, good evening. She's sitting upstairs. So we will wait till 7:05, and then we will start with the session. We are waiting for some of our therapists to join.
नहीं होता होगा I don't want to bring it in front. हाँ, but
Hi, Nisha, how are you?
I can see bench. Okay. You. Good evening, everyone. We will start with the session. Before that, I would like to introduce our speaker for the day, Ashika ma'am. So, she's a child rights advocate with over 18 years of experience in the field of children and education. Though originally trained in engineering and business administration, her passion for social justice led her to further study counseling, psychology, gender, and sexuality. She holds a master's in gender, culture, and development studies. Ashika ma'am has worked with organizations such as the Concern for Working Children and Enfold, contributing to policy and advocacy efforts with both government and non-government. She is the former member of the Child Welfare Committee for Girls, Bangalore Urban. Currently, she coordinates the Alternate School Initiative at UPSA, Bangalore, and volunteers with Vimochana, offering child-focused perspectives on custody matters. She is also the director of All Inclusive Foundation, Insighte's sister concern, and serves as an external member of the POSH committee at Insighte. So some of you already know her through the sexuality training that she did previously. I would welcome her for this training today, and thank you, ma'am, for giving us time and doing this training for us. And so before we start the training, just I would like to inform everyone, all our therapists, at the end of the session, we will be sharing feedback form with you all. Kindly fill that so that we can also record your attendance. And in case you get disconnected from the meeting, the session is also being streamed live on YouTube. You can you go through that mail as well. Okay. I hope that your session is engaging and meaningful. Ashika ma'am, you can start the session.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me. A thumbs up would be great. Can you hear me?
I would request everyone to please turn on your video so that interactive session. Okay. And yeah. Is it? Nobody heard me?
Who heard you?
No, from the meeting. Nobody heard me.
Not you, Angela.
I did,
Ashika,
I
I
did.
can't hear.
Ashika ma'am's voice.
My voice is
Ashika's
very
sound
feeble, is it?
The voice is very, yeah.
Let me unmute, huh? Oh, 100%. It's not clear at all. Audio is muffled, voice is very low. Okay, I'm going to try and speak louder. I'm using my headphones. I'm not as tech savvy as all the youngsters here are. So I'm just going to give it a shot. Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's the same, Ashika. Are you using the system microphone? Not connected to another microphone, no? Should we try?
I'm using the only microphone I have, which is the one in my ears.
So can we? No, that's what I was asking. Are you using a one connected externally?
Yes.
Maybe we can disconnect that and see if your
No,
system
my
microphone is
system
better.
microphone is much worse. It was now is it better?
No, I can't hear you.
Okay, just give me a minute. I'm just going to use another set, maybe
ഇതൊന്നും ഞാൻ ജീവിതത്തിൽ ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ല ഇവിടെ ഒന്നും കാലൊന്ന് മറ്റേ കാല്
Is it better now? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Great. So sorry for all that confusion. Um, okay. While before we start, I would request all of you to quickly take about 5 minutes to fill this Google form that I'm going to put up on the chat so that everybody accesses it. All of us know about sexual harassment. We know about sex. We know about everything. So it's just a little
Ashika,
bit of
just excuse me, I'm
an
going to
understanding to
interrupt you.
see where we are on that, and all of us come to the same page. So I thought maybe we could do this before the session so that all of y'all, you know. Yes.
Ashika, I'm sorry, I'm going to just interrupt you. Ojula, can you make sure that people who are watching this from YouTube can also
raise
get
your
access
hand.
to this form?
Sorry, ma'am, could you please repeat once more?
Can you make sure that the people who are accessing from YouTube can also get access to this form, the link?
Yes,
You can just
yes,
post it
sure.
on the
I'll
chat.
share it on the Telegram group.
Thanks.
Yes.
Sorry, Ashika.
Ashika ma'am, I think you'll have to give us access.
Okay. So can I try now? See if it works. Yeah.
Yes,
So
very
thank
good.
you so much for that introduction. Just a few changes. My life has changed quite a bit in the last few days, and from the time that the intro was shared. So I'm no longer with UPSA anymore, and I do support another organization, not Vimochana. It's called Aviksha. So yeah, these are the few changes that have happened in my life. So just wanted to do that. Yes. I hope the link is working now, so then we can, yeah. Do we need more time to just finish it up, or can we start the session? Okay, please, I request not to Google the answers because then the entire exercise of this session would be very futile. Please go ahead and click these answers from the top of your head. Yeah. Are we ready to start? If there's anybody else that needs more time, if you just put on the chat, then we can wait a bit, then we can start. Anybody needs more time? Okay. Ma'am, 2 more minutes. Okay. So the last time that we met, we did speak a lot about sexuality, and there was a lot about fun sexuality. Yeah. So today we're not going to be talking about much fun. It's not going to be that very interesting slash funny, humorous, because the topic is a little more intense. That needs a little bit of serious introspection and understanding. So you might find it a little drab, but some things need to be said, and so these are one of these things. So we will talk about harm. We will talk about sexual harm. We're going to talk about sexual harassment. So just a trigger warning. And if this is triggering for some of us, we're always free to step away and take a break. I also encourage you to reach out to somebody who could support you to handle the emotional journey that may happen. Yeah. So saying that, let's start. Sexual harassment at workplace. All of us feel we know exactly what it is, but it's a far more complex act and a crime than any other crime that is there or any other law that we have in our country. Because sexual harassment is something that we cannot pinpoint and say this is sexual harassment. It can't be so structurally, or can't be put in a box and say this is what it is and this is what it is not. And that is the struggle with sexual harassment. So how do I even work myself around and understand, am I going through harassment? And is that sexual harassment, or is it just workplace harassment? Who do I reach out to? What do I do? And how do I come to terms with it? How do I take action? And how do I feel justice is served to me? Yeah. So before we do that, I'm going to talk about something that's very, very plain and simple, right? When we're all working in anywhere, in any environment. So in the context of Insighte, some of us, many of us are actually not going to the office per se, but we're all stepping out to schools and environments that are very different from workplace that other people do, right? So the question arises that, then am I alone, or am I on my own? What do I do when something happens to me? Can I even reach out? Is this really some harassment, or is it just a figment of my imagination? So before we go to all those concepts, I just want to try and talk to you about communication, right? So all of us communicate. We have to communicate for a living, in whether it's verbal, whether it's any other mode of communication that we're used to. And our relationships are built on communication, right? And so the different types of communication that we are engaging with is verbal, non-verbal, and digital, right? There's no communication, there's no relationship. There's no relationship, there's no bonding, there's no bonding, there's no intimacy. There's no communication, then there is no harm as well, right? So everything hinges on how we and who we communicate with. And we need to recognize that our communication, whether it's verbal, whether it's non-verbal, and it is digital, all are avenues for where we could come across situations where we are not comfortable, right? So we also know that communications build relationships. So I want you all to do a small exercise. You can see on the screen, I have the 4 concentric circles. And these concentric circles are talking about your circle of trust, right? So this circle of trust tells you who do you place right in the middle, as in the innermost circle where you share your deepest, darkest secrets. And then comes the next circle where you have some people who you share a lot of camaraderie with, fun times with, the other circle that is more casual, and the outer circle where you don't have any trust with, right? Now, if you do this for yourself, each one of you by yourself, when you do it, and with all the people in your life, this could be personal and professional. I'm not talking about just professional, even personal. You will place each and every person in these different circles of trust, right? Like for example, I'll probably put one of my friends really in the center, probably my parents right outside. Because that's the relationship I'm I have. So each one of us, our circles look very different, right? Now take the same circle and instead of saying circle of trust, say circle of intimacy. And see who do you have the most intimate engagement with. I'll put them right in the middle. Somebody who you just have casual relationships of more platonic, but then there is also some kind of intimacy where you're hugging, holding hands. That is the third circle. The other circle is acquaintances, and the final circle is people who you have a lot of distance with. Take these two circles and see if they are the same. Most often, they're not, right? So who you are very close to, share your very deep, dark secrets and have a lot of trust with, may or may not be the somebody who you're having most intimacy with, right? And sexuality and sexual relationships is a bonding of both, where you have trust and there is this concept of intimacy with them, right? And that determines who you are okay with having certain relationships sexually and who you're okay with not having these relationships sexually, right? So for us to understand where do I stand in the context of sexual harassment or sexual harm, I need to first understand who are my inner circles, whether it's trust or it's intimacy, right? Now, how do I recognize sexual harassment? Can anybody just put it in your chat? How do I know that a particular incident is sexual harassment? You all can unmute your mics as well and respond.
At any point, if you feel your boundaries are being violated or makes you feel
Sorry,
uncomfortable.
Isha, I'm not able to hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Someone says when something makes me feel uncomfortable, or when you say when we sense something negative. Okay, boundaries being stepped and overall feelings of discomfort when we feel unsafe in a situation. Okay, so what is this uncomfortable feeling? I am sitting in my office and the air conditioner is extremely cold. It's 16 degrees. I'm very uncomfortable. Is that sexual harassment? Sexual gestures or comments. When I feel unsafe, I'm working in a school and I'm in the third floor and there is no railing there. That's an unsafe situation. Is that sexual harassment? And someone is in my personal space. So without my permission, somebody has taken my laptop. Is that sexual harassment? So the first point about sexual harassment is it needs to be sexual in nature, right? So we can beat around the bush and talk about uncomfortable, unsafe, not very comfortable. I need to call out what sexual harassment is, and that is if it is sexual in nature. And what is it sexual in nature? It could be unwanted physical contact, somebody touching me in a manner I'm not okay with, somebody talking about something sexual and those jokes are not okay. That's verbal harassment. Now, non-verbal could be the way somebody's staring at me, the way somebody makes gestures at me, the way somebody sends certain photographs, emails, messages, WhatsApp messages. That could also be sexual harassment. Somebody trying to, in their words, woo me, send me flowers when I'm not okay with it. Trying to create an environment where I feel extremely uncomfortable because of my sexuality and my gender. Um, Putting out posters, talking about stuff that is very, very sexual in nature, right? So, what is sexual harassment? When something that is really sexual in nature and it is uncomfortable for you, right? And that needs to be something that you need to be very, very mindful of, right? So, let's look at this video, because if I just say sexual harassment and uncomfortable, does that cover everything? Yeah.
काफी पॉपुलर।
तो आपने शुरू में क्यों नहीं बताया किसी को अपने ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में?
आई वॉज स्कैर्ड। वो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में काफ़ी पॉपुलर है, लोगों ने काफ़ी मानते हैं। आई डेंट वॉन्ट कि मेरी पोजीशन पर असर पड़े। अभी रिसेंटली ज्वाइन किया था तो मुझे लगा ज़्यादा टेंशन दे रहे हैं ताकि मैं टीम में आराम से घुल मिल जाऊँ। काफ़ी 1-on-1 मीटिंग्स करते थे। कई बार ऐसे क्वेश्चंस पूछते थे जो मेरे जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन में है ही नहीं। उसके बाद पर्सनल क्वेश्चंस पूछने लग गए, जैसे बॉयफ्रेंड है कि नहीं। मुझे लगा टीम में कंफर्टेबल करने की कोशिश करें, तो मैंने ज़्यादा सोचा नहीं। फिर थोड़ा अजीब हो गया क्योंकि कई बार ऑफिस से तभी निकलती थी जब मैं निकलती थी और हमेशा बोलती थी कि मैं ड्रॉप कर देता हूँ, जबकि मैं उनसे काफ़ी दूर रहती हूँ। मैं हमेशा मना करती थी बट काफ़ी इंसिस्ट करते थे। एक दिन मुझे ड्रॉप कर रहे थे और एकदम से बोला कॉफ़ी पीते हैं, कंपनी में तुम्हारे फ्यूचर की बात करनी है। मुझे काफ़ी अनकंफर्टेबल लगा बट आई डेंट वांट टू बी रूड। फिर वहाँ जाकर मुझे बोलते हैं कि शादी वादी के चक्कर में मत पड़ना, करियर प्रॉस्पेक्ट्स ख़राब हो जाएंगे। हमारी टीम एक डेडलाइन पर काम कर रही थी तो 2-4 लोग लेट रुके हुए थे। जब काम खत्म
Can I ask someone to just share this video, please? I think seems to be some problem with my audio. I don't know. One second. Okay.
तो आपने शुरू में क्यों नहीं बताया किसी को अपने ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में?
आई वॉज स्कैर्ड। वो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में काफ़ी पॉपुलर है, लोगों ने काफ़ी मानते हैं। आई डेंट वांट कि मेरी पोजीशन पर असर पड़े। अभी रिसेंटली ज्वाइन किया था तो मुझे लगा ज़्यादा टेंशन दे रहे हैं ताकि मैं टीम में आराम से घुल मिल जाऊँ। काफ़ी वन ऑन वन मीटिंग्स करते थे। कई बार ऐसे क्वेश्चंस पूछते थे जो मेरे जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शन में है ही नहीं। उसके बाद पर्सनल क्वेश्चंस पूछने लग गए, जैसे बॉयफ्रेंड है कि नहीं। मुझे लगा टीम में कंफर्टेबल करने की कोशिश करें तो मैंने ज़्यादा सोचा नहीं। फिर थोड़ा अजीब हो गया क्योंकि कई बार ऑफिस से तभी निकलती थी जब मैं निकलती थी और हमेशा बोलती थी कि मैं ड्रॉप कर देता हूँ, जबकि मैं उनसे काफ़ी दूर रहती हूँ। मैं हमेशा मना करती थी बट काफ़ी इंसिस्ट करते थे। एक दिन मुझे ड्रॉप कर रहे थे और एकदम से बोला कॉफ़ी पीते हैं, कंपनी में तुम्हारे फ्यूचर की बात करनी है। मुझे काफ़ी अनकंफर्टेबल लगा बट आई डेंट वांट टू बी रूड। फिर वहाँ जाकर मुझे बोलते हैं कि शादी वादी के चक्कर में मत पड़ना, करियर प्रॉस्पेक्ट्स ख़राब हो जाएंगे। हमारी टीम एक डेडलाइन पर काम कर रही थी तो 2-4 लोग लेट रुके हुए थे। जब काम खत्म हो गया तो वो बियर लेकर आए और बोला छत पर जाकर सेलिब्रेट करते हैं। बीच में हम दोनों अकेले थे एंड ही ट्राई टू किस मी। मैंने मना कर दिया एंड ही सेड रिलैक्स, डोंट बी सो शाय। मैं तभी वहाँ से निकल गई, कैब पकड़ा, सीधा घर। अगले दिन उनका मैसेज आया, कम फॉर कॉफ़ी।
आपने रिप्लाई किया?
नहीं। और उसके बाद एटीट्यूड बिल्कुल चेंज, नो स्पेशल ट्रीटमेंट, कट टू कट बात। बाद में मुझे पता चला कि इन्होंने मेरे अप्रेजल में लिखा है कि लड़की में लैक ऑफ एम्बिशन है।
तो फिर अब क्यों करी कंप्लेंट फाइल?
क्योंकि मुझे पता चला कि इन्होंने ये पहले भी किया हुआ है। ऐसा लगता है कि क्योंकि वो बॉस हैं तो उन्हें लगता है कि वो कुछ भी कर सकते हैं विदाउट क्वेश्चन।
Okay. So now, yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. So now tell me. So what is sexual harassment? Is it just something that is sexual in nature, makes you uncomfortable? What seems to be missing there? What is missing in that? What else is? is the problem. We all know that sexual harassment is something that makes you uncomfortable and sexual in nature. But what else? What does this video tell us? And
The power dynamics.
Power dynamics, great, yes. Okay, what else? Is that it? Somebody says manipulation, okay. So when somebody's manipulating you, what do you feel? What is the feeling that's going on inside you? Yeah. What is the most important thing that is missing and what makes that person so uncomfortable?
Consent.
Yeah. So what we need to recognize, the first thing is when or how do I identify that I am going through sexual harassment is one, it is sexual in nature. Second thing, there is an absence of consent. Yeah. Now, how does consent look? Yeah. Person needs to, you need to hear the yes. That needs to come out enthusiastically. Not hesitant, not somebody who is scared and responding, right? So consent is something that you give very freely and very enthusiastically, right? So now we realize that sexual harassment is one, it's sexual in nature. Second thing is there is complete absence of consent. Yeah. A lot of times we hear people say, but I didn't mean to. That was not what I meant. No, I'm so used to hugging people that, you took it very seriously. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's okay. Come on, yeah. Be a little more open. Yeah. So the third point about sexual harassment is about intent. Whatever your intention is, it really doesn't matter. It is how it has impacted that person. You felt violated, you are violated. Intent has nothing to do with sexual harassment. So the first thing is sexual in nature. Second, absence of consent. Third is it is the impact and not the intent. Yeah. A lot of times we hear, when we talk about somebody and our experience with them is not very comfortable. Hey, but this person never does this to me. I have not had this kind of experience. I don't know why you're saying this. Maybe something you did has triggered this. I have not heard anybody complaining about this person like this. I think it's a figment of your imagination. So sexual harassment and the act very clearly says that whatever the experience of other people, your experience is most important. So it is subjective in nature. If I have felt violated, nobody else has felt violated, it doesn't matter. If you are impacted by a person who has sexually communicated with you in a manner that doesn't have your consent, it is sexual harassment. Yeah. So many times we think that a sexual violator, somebody who harasses us, harasses everybody. It's like a blanket rule. Not necessarily. There are a lot of people who we know who are like great fathers or great parents, great co-worker, but a very, very horrible, supervisor or a mentor. And that person that experience could be also very isolated as well. Everybody may be saying, oh, this person is so good to me, but I'm like, I'm not having the experience, and that experience is also valid. So when you want to understand sexual harassment, please understand, and I'm going on repeating these words because This is very important when you are identifying and you're pointing out, because sexual harassment itself is very complex. And when we talk about it, a lot of people will try to dissuade you, will try to brush it away and tell you, this may not be harassment. Take it out of your mind. But if you keep these points very clearly in your mind, then you'll be able to pinpoint and say, why is that you feel that you have experienced workplace sexual harassment? Yeah. One is it's sexual in nature. Second thing is absence of consent. Third, it's you've been impacted and it is your experience, right? The third aspect of this whole thing is, has anybody heard this quid pro quo? Has anybody heard of this quid pro quo? Anybody wants to go at it and tell me what it means? Just unmute yourself and talk, please. No, not an issue. What is quid pro quo mean? Yes, please go ahead.
Is it something like give and take?
So give me an example that you'll know what does it mean.
I'm going to do something for you. I need something written from you.
Yeah. So you come out for coffee with me, I will make sure your appraisal looks good. Let's go for dinner together. I'll make sure I put in a good word for you for your promotion. Quid pro quo, right? And in this situation, it's very difficult to say no, especially if it's your boss, right? And then what happens? You say yes. And then after what happens when this person will turn around and say, but you only agreed, right? I asked you. I said, let's go for coffee, let's go for dinner. You came. Now, how can you tell me it's sexual harassment, right? So quid pro quo is something that is very unique to sexual harassment. And we see it very often, especially when there is a power dynamic in place, right? So even if somebody says or cajoles you or puts you under duress and says, and you feel very compelled to say yes, then also it is sexual harassment, right? And the most important and very vital part of sexual harassment is the element of power. So what do you mean by power? I have more muscle strength, or I am much bigger built? What does power mean to you?
Power and position.
So what do you mean by position?
Like if you're an employee and if your CEO is doing it, then he's above you, so you'll get scared and you're not able to complain about him.
Yeah. So if I'm in a more responsible position in the organization, then that's one kind of power. What are the other kinds of power that we see in our daily life? Is that the only kind of power that we see at workplace?
Is it speaking for ourselves?
Could you elaborate that a little bit?
Like if I certainly experience any kind of harassment from somebody superior than me, then there might be a second thought, like, should I be going and telling it to people? Because the second thoughts, they always come. So probably going around and speaking about it, can that be considered as a power? Because as women, I think we have a lot of second thoughts that come our way. So I think that confidence and that ability to speak for ourselves.
And how do I get that ability? So what are the other aspects that gives me that power?
Influence.
Influence. So what does influence mean?
Influence here, I mean, is if a person, even if is lower than us or in lower position, if he has some influence from the higher authority, he can take advantage. It doesn't mean that it has to be come from the higher position.
60, yeah.
Very true, very true. We see these young kids on the streets saying the cops, no, janta nahi mere baap kaun hai. It's like that. So it's like, who do I know, right? In the hierarchy of things, who can influence my position, right? So here are some of the different ways how power looks like, right? One is race. So when we have somebody coming from white-skinned countries, Western countries, their ability to navigate the situation is much stronger than maybe somebody who has a brown skin or black skin, right? So that is one element of power. Gender, yeah, man, woman, trans, gender fluid. Who do you think has most power?
I feel it's political power.
What is political power? What do you mean by political power?
I mean, like, it depends, like, which government is in role and how you can use them for your benefit. I feel it's all political power. Even if you're in any government, I feel you'll get through it easily. Until unless someone has a problem with someone. I feel it's like more that way.
So how do you connect it with gender?
It's very clear, ma'am, that we still are in patriarchy and we still don't think females' basic need, like even being a female political leader and giving us statements that, it's just saying it's nothing and it's just we think about it. I feel in that way itself, it says a lot that we don't accept that we do need a support. That's why we're still unequal. That's why we're still fighting.
Okay. Okay. So when we talk about power, so power cannot be seen in isolation, right? So when we look at power, we look at all the kinds of powers that a person has. Like, for example, if I'm a woman and I'm a CEO, and I have somebody who's a support staff who's male. So even if that person is male, his gender is male, and we know that male gender has much more power than other genders, I, being the CEO, have more power than him because of my position as a CEO, right? So when we look at power, we need to look at what kinds of power do I have. Yeah, Nikita, go ahead.
I just want to say I think power can be because we were talking about people who are in lesser positions than us. It can also be through manipulation or persuasion. How much control they have over our decisions. It may not be about if they are at a senior position than us. It could also be like how much of our thoughts are they controlling us without us realizing. I think I perceive power like that.
Okay. And how do you think they do that? Right? It's the various aspects of power.
Yeah.
Right? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sometimes in some people I have noticed, like personally, I feel like they feed off on your, weaknesses or when you open up to them. So some people feed off on those things, your personal information, and they may look like that they are doing, they are benefiting you, but they are actually damaging you on the side. So that's one of the ways I think.
Okay. Okay. And how do they do that? One is which race I am, which gender I am, which caste I am, however much we try and deny it. What is my professional network and cloud? Like a lot of them are talking about senior, junior. I'm talking about what is my cloud, right? If you walk into a government office, a lot of them say, you just have to talk to the clerk there, you'll get your job done. You don't even have to talk to the, commissioner, or you don't have to talk to the officer there. You just talk to the clerk and job will be done. And how is that happening? It's professional cloud, right? I'm neurotypical. I have more power than somebody who is neurodivergent. Yeah. I'm able, I don't have a disability, I have more power. Can somebody tell me what's this heteronormativity? What is heteronormativity?
Somebody somebody who aligns with the defined sexual identity, like somebody who's a woman who's attracted to a man, men attracted to women. The equation is heteronorm. Yeah.
Yeah. So where you're cis, where you identify with the gender you've been assigned, and you're attracted to the other, not opposite, so the other gender, which is what the mainstream wants you to do, right? And if you are somebody who is like that, then you have more power than somebody who is a lesbian, gay, who's bisexual, who's gender fluid, who's trans. So you have more power than them because you know that if you do anything to them, then the voices of who's being heard, the person with more power, right? So this is also one kind of power. Then the position within the organization, right? So when we look at power, we have to look at it from all these dimensions and not look at it from isolation. Or just because he's a man, can he have power? No. What is his race, his caste, his intersectionality, his what is the language that he uses? A lot of us, are coming from tier 1 cities who speak English more fluently than somebody from tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? And then we have more power just because of that fact. Suppose I'm working in maybe a remote area and that place they require us to speak in Kannada and I can't speak Kannada that well. So that gives me lesser power than the person that is there. So where I get to push my agenda or my voice forward is where I have more power. So when I add this element of power on consent, consent starts looking very different, right? Because I, in position of power, can manipulate you, can put you in duress, can coerce you to say yes. I can push you to say yes. I can push you to, even if you're uncomfortable, to feel that no, this maybe it's just me, and go along with it, right? So when I look at sexual harassment, it's not just uncomfortable sexual experience that has no consent, where I'm impacted, where I'm experiencing it, and somebody has been doing this to me and telling me that they will get me to further my job. It is also how my consent looks like with power. Because when I mix power with all these issues, it starts looking different. And a lot of time we see a lot of us people who go through sexual harassment, we think twice before we go up and complain. Like somebody had just heard said, we are all very hesitant. We have second thoughts. We have second thoughts because we feel somewhere we have initiated it. But we don't realize that there are so many aspects of sexual harassment that has put us in a situation where we had no other choice, right? So this, when I say recognizing of sexual harassment, it's not just that it is sexual in nature, but it is all these aspects. Yeah. Any questions so far? So now that I have recognized what sexual harassment is, what do? I've recognized and I want something to be done, right? So first I need to recognize who am I in this equation, right? So the Act uses two very important terminologies. One is the complainant and the other is the respondent, right? So according to the Act, the complainant is somebody who files the complaint, right? And the respondent is the person on whom we are filing the complaint. So when you are filing a complaint of sexual harassment, please keep this very clearly in your mind. Complainant is the person who's complaining, and the complaint and respondent is the person who is the one just complaining about. Yeah. Now I know that I am the complainant. I have gone through sexual harassment. Where do I take this complaint to?
You.
Can anybody tell me?
Can you tell me?
Where do I take this complaint? Where do I take this complaint to? Anybody unmute, please? What do I do now? I've got this complaint. Where do I take this complaint?
There must be some committee for each organization where you can.
I am talking about Insighte now. You are in
Oh.
Insighte. Where do you take your complaint? No generic. We're talking about Insighte right now. All of us here sitting here need to recognize that when we go through harassment, what do we do? Anybody? Okay, so like our dear friend said, there is a committee, and under the Act, it's called the Internal Committee or the IC. Now, this committee is a quasi-judicial body. So when I say quasi-judicial body, that means it has powers like a first-class judicial magistrate, but it cannot send somebody to jail. Yeah. So that is a power that this IC has, right? And what is this IC that we have? An IC of every organization that has more than 10 employees needs to have a presiding officer who is a woman, not less than 2 members who are committee members who are part of the organization, and 50% of them need to be women, and 1 external member, as in a person who is not part of the organization but has worked in this field. Yeah, that's me. So who is your committee and who do you complain to in Insighte? Any guesses? Now that I've already said I'm the external member, apart from me, anybody else?
Binda ma'am.
To complain to? Yeah. Why do we need to complain to Bindya ma'am?
She's the internal member.
Sorry? Who is she? She is the chairperson of the Insighte IC. Yeah. So please meet your colleagues who are part of the IC. Please make note of who they are, because when you face any kind of sexual harassment, these are the people who are going to be in touch with you. Yeah. That's Bindya ma'am. Then there's Navya, there's Mridula, and then there's me, right? So we are the IC for Insighte. So any of you facing issues of sexual harassment, please reach out to any 4 of us. Yeah, and we will take what needs to be done and we'll take it forward. Yeah. Okay, now that we know what sexual harassment is, now that we know that we have an IC in Insighte, now we know who these guys are. Now, once I file a complaint, what happens? Or how do I file a complaint? Now I say that, okay, I'm going through this situation. I know this is sexual harassment. I know I have to write a letter to Bindya ma'am. What do I write to her in that letter, right? So this is the information that I have to give when I am filing a case of sexual harassment. Yeah. One is I have to provide information that detailed information. So that means it needs to be the description of the offense, what I experienced, the harm I experienced, because as I said, it is the impact, not the intent, because it's subjective in nature. Then I need to also give information about the location and time of the conduct. I have to also give in any more information that will strengthen the case that I am filing. I also need to talk about, which is very, very important, if I have in some way conveyed a no, if I have said no in some way or the other. It could be verbally no, it could be a gesture from my body, it could be a text message, it could be an email. But the Sexual Harassment Act in India requires that you have at least said once, you have conveyed your disapproval at least once. I would recommend if you could send a WhatsApp message or an email to this person and say, hey, you did this, I am not okay with this. It becomes a document to prove that you have taken that step, and then it strengthens your case against this person. Yeah. So now that you have identified that you've gone through sexual harassment, you know whom to file this case against, you have also put down your note very clearly. What do you think will happen next? Once this particular information is either emailed to us or you have gone ahead and spoken to this person verbally and then put down in a document, written it down, and in some way communicated with the IC. So what does the IC do? It first informs the person who you have complained against, and that person is given an opportunity to respond. So I said, I am not okay with the way this person has behaved. I feel I am going through sexual harassment. The person who you complain against gets this complaint and they get some time to respond to it. Yeah. The entire inquiry takes 90 days. Now, 90 days is a lot of time. That's because we have to weigh the pros and cons. We have to talk to the respondent. We have to talk to the witnesses. We have to take evidences into consideration. We have to document everything because it's just like any other court, right? And then we submit a report to, we complete the report and we submit our recommendations to the organization. So in your case, we submit a report to Mithun and we give it to him and say that this is what we've come, this is the conclusion, this is our recommendations, and you have to implement it, right? And this is given both to the respondent and to the complainant, right? And this has to be implemented. And any one of them have a problem with it, you can always file an appeal. Yeah. So it is as serious as any court decision. So if I'm not happy with the the court, I can go to a high court. From high court, I go to Supreme Court. Similarly, if I'm not happy with the outcome of what this particular committee or the IC that we have done is not, you're not happy with it, then what do? You can always go to the higher court. And these are some of the acts under which you can go. One is the Sexual Harassment of Women Act at Workplace, Mental Health Care Act, Transgender Persons Act, Right of Persons with Disabilities Act, Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribe Act, or any other act that will support your case. Yeah. So now is the big question. What is workplace? What do you call as workplace? Can anybody tell me? I know sexual harassment is. I know who the IC is. I know what I have to put in my complaint, and I know how the inquiry happens. But what are the spaces that is considered as workspace? Yeah. Because at Insighte, all of you all go elsewhere to work, right? So now you all define, according to you, what is workspace? Is it only when you come to the Insighte office in Kudanali? Is it the schools that some of you go to? Is it some of the houses that you all go for to support clients? Which are the spaces that is called workspace? What about when all of you all are wanting to wind down and go to the nearest coffee shop for coffee? Is that considered workspace? Or we'll all gone out for a trip overnight for 2 days? Is that workspace? Because these are spaces where things could happen, right? And then what do we do? So what is a workspace?
Can it be any space that is shared by the people you work with? It can,
Yes.
like you said, it can be if you're going out after work for like an office thing or a trip or the school that we work in, the office in itself, or any digital space that we share, or
Yes.
even meeting for work, like where, like you mentioned even previously, where if, like the example that you gave, if a senior is reaching out to you saying that let's meet for coffee to discuss the future of yourself, of you in the company. So even that would be a workspace, any space that you share. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So let me say, Isha, now you're saying anywhere that I'm talking work. But what if I'm not talking work? I'm still meeting you. We're both colleagues, and I'm meeting you for a cup of coffee just to chill and relax. I'm not talking work. I'm just getting to know you. Is that workspace?
But um yes, because I think the relationship that we form is through work, and initial intent would always be work. Whatever you're doing is just digression of the intent.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Isha. So anywhere you meet your colleague, it could be even your own house or the house of your colleagues. Anywhere you meet your colleagues, whether for work or to wind down, it is considered a workplace. So if you face a situation of workplace sexual harassment, in any of these situations, do not feel that, oh my God, maybe this is because um, this was a casual meetup and it's nothing to do with work. Everything to do with work. Everything is to do with work. The fact that your relationship started because of work, therefore, everywhere you meet this person or these people is workplace. Yeah. And who's an employee? Who is an employee? Is it just somebody who is on a permanent payroll? Is it somebody who's will our consultants part of it? What happens to interns? What about vendors? What about people who you meet, in school? So who's an employee? So anybody who is coming to your workplace. Sorry? So it could be anybody, from a permanent staff to a contractual person to a vendor to an intern to a volunteer to somebody who's on contract consultancy. Everybody is an employee if they're connected to that particular organization, right? So the Sexual Harassment Act covers quite a large area of individuals working together, because we all recognize that working together in a space often creates situation where you're uncomfortable, right? Uh, it could be anything. It could be anywhere. It could be anybody. But everything that is connected to the organization that you're part of is workplace. But people who are connected to that are called employees, right? So now we've seen or we've recognized what sexual harassment is. What do we do when we face harassment? Which is the body that will support you with this? And where do I stand? Do I qualify to file a complaint or not? Who is an employee? Who's not an employee? Yeah, Vidya?
I'm just wondering, where will you place parent?
Parent.
I know parent can still be part of workplace.
Yes.
But not an employee, right?
Not the employee of Insighte.
Right.
But yeah.
You're meeting that parent at one of your workspaces.
Yeah.
That way, that parent becomes an employee.
If the parent is accessing the services of Insighte, yes.
Oh, okay. And if the parent is inviting you out for coffee, that is also workplace.
Yeah, that is also workplace.
Thanks.
So what do we do to stop this? So before that, let's go through the questionnaire that we did. All of us have, I hope, have accessed the questionnaire. And these are the questions that was there. So if anybody has any confusions, want to talk about it, want to understand what it is, so we can just use this time. The first one is sexual harassment is strictly physical. So what do you think the response should be? Is it true or false? Yeah. So it could be anything, right? Physical, it could be verbal, it could be non-verbal, it could be digital, it could be textual, it could be gestures. So sexual harassment could be anything and everything, right? Where you are feeling sexually uncomfortable. Now, it's sexual harassment only if it was intended to be so. Yeah. So we discussed this in length and how it's more impact than intent, right? The third question was, if I consented to a sexual advance, I cannot consider it as a sexual harassment, even if it is under duress. So we know something called as quid pro quo, right? And so we understand where we stand there. Remote work makes sexual harassment impossible. And I always, it was very funny when a lot of organizations suddenly decided that they will not have ICs anymore, because now we are all digital during COVID, right? They're like, oh, now that nobody is in touch with each other, it's all, no sexual harassment is going to happen. Research has said that it had increased during COVID, because you have now opened your screens to the privacy of your bedroom, to your living room, to things around that is there in your home. So that made you even more vulnerable. So these were not spaces that anybody had access to before, and now they do. So that made it even more scary and even more violent, right? So remote work, sexual harassment is possible. So it is sexual harassment workplace only if it happens at work or during work hours. So we also touched upon that in great detail. Inside sexual harassment policy protects only women. What do you all think? Does it only protect women? No, that's a different matter that most of us are. But is your policy for women, or it can a male person or gender fluid or a trans person can also access? How many of us have actually gone through the policy, the sexual harassment policy in the of Insighte? Because Insighte policy is gender inclusive, but also it will be